the most amazing, beautiful human and starseed. You guys are going to be so excited to meet April Curry. She is an amazing Akashic Records reader. If you guys have been on Clubhouse, you will have met her probably. She has amazing rooms on the Clubhouse app. She's also an intuitive Reiki healer, Reiki Master, I should say, an intuitive Reiki Master. And she does quantum light and frequency healings, right? So I think I got that right, April. Did I? Yes?
Yeah, you got that right.
You guys are going to love her. I'm so excited to bring April to you so that you can find out what April does in the world, how she's of service, and how you can connect with her to receive all of the abundant services and really just transformation that April offers. So April is one of my friends. I just love her. That was the official introduction, but now you guys, we're going to relax a little bit and just have a conversation. So when I met you, April, I had almost like an instantaneous, like, I know her. And at the same time, I was like, I want to be friends with this girl.
Oh, Bridget.
Like, she's amazing. And one thing that I love about you is how grounded you are, at the same time super cosmic and galactic, but also how genuine you express your heart and how you're always just expressing from the heart with your responses to everyone and everything that I've ever seen you do. So with that, I would love to talk about what you do, right? Do you want to start with like how your journey started and all of that?
Yeah, we can go from the journey start till now. When I was younger, I was in corporate America and I was like, oh my God, this is not what I want to do. So I ended up getting a camper, traveling around the country, and did strict Zazen for 7 years. And in that time, it was more of like letting go of old reels and bringing in being in the present moment. And from that space, I started getting more interested in energy work. And I decided to get into Reiki for some physical body stuff that I had from my childhood. And once I got into Reiki, because I spent years getting into, I would say, alpha brain state, which is what you get into when you're meditating, I just naturally opened up my intuitive channel with Reiki. And from there, it was game over. I started tapping into the Akashic Records. I met this wonderful woman that introduced it to me. And she's like, you've been reading them forever. You should just get into them and really understand them. So I did. And that just opened up a whole can of worms of, my galactic heritage that I have, where I came from. I have a lot of Andromedan and Palladian energy. And I was really exploring my channel when it first opened, and I would venture out to see how far I'd go, and I would get like different types of languages, and I would almost I would get light language and I would translate it into English, and there was just so much going on in my channel when it first opened up. And a few years went by, and then I got on Clubhouse, and I was still in exploratory mode. So I wanted everyone, when I first got on Clubhouse, to explore their channel and to see what that was like. And there was something I noticed, is that it's really easy for people to get in their intuitive channel when they meditate and when they do Reiki, because that is an alpha brainwave state. But I noticed for people who are in beta, which is like problem solving thinking mind, it takes a second for them to get into that state, which allows them to go up into the Akashic Records. So that's when I started introducing light therapy and quantum healing, because that effortlessly gets someone from a beta brainwave state into an alpha. Also, if someone has physical ailments that doesn't allow them to get into that alpha state, the quantum bed, Reiki, the light therapy gets them into that headspace very effortlessly. So it's kind of this full circle thing that I noticed there was a need. The other thing is, I realized, and I feel like I always knew this, but I've been training so many people that everyone's intuitive. I mean, it's not this thing that, you know, if you're special, you're intuitive, or if you had a hard childhood, you're sensitive and that makes you intuitive. Anyone can exercise it. All they have to do is get into an alpha brainwave state and they're there. That's it. And now my new favorite thing is getting someone there and then teaching them how to go up into the Akashic records to see their lineages, their star seeds, their life purpose, their soul's essence, so they can raise the vibration of the collective, essentially.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. This is so exciting. So just a little side note, April and I had a little discussion a day ago about what she's doing now. And I got so excited and I'm feeling that way again. So so as you're teaching people how to do this, what are you noticing within their expansion journey with it? Like, what are you? Yeah. I could feel it.
So, oh my gosh, there's so many different instances, but one of my favorite ones is someone who shows up. They're like, I know that I have something. I've always known that I have something. I just don't know how to get there. And they have, you know, they come in with a lot of doubt, a lot of just uncertainty, and not really sure why they're here to see me. And it's really great. The first session, that's usually what it feels like. And then by like the second or third, even no matter what program they do, there starts to be this like opening. There's like a cracking of the eggshell, just like yoking into their soul, and they're starting to pick up messages. And by a couple of sessions, I feel like I'm hanging out with someone who's like a bodhisattva. I'm like, who are you? Like, this is amazing. And it's watching someone truly step into their purpose fearlessly and leaving with a gift that they gave themselves. Because I'm literally just here, like, hi, step 1 through 5, here you go. They're the ones that showed up. They're the ones that did the work. And they're the ones that get their gifts back. It's literally all it is a remembrance of what they already had, and standing in their power again and being able to live a life with way more ease, because now you're living this multi-dimensional life where you can see higher expanded consciousness, and you can live that way down here very effortlessly. So it's really, that's like the best part, is watching someone live that way after they come in with this like uncertainty.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love the blossoming into remembrance. Oh man, I really love witnessing people's expansion all the way from awakening to like whatever they choose, right? That's one of my favorite things about the work that we all get to do, is that we get to witness. And I have mine set up to where I get feedback, right? So I get to experience a little bit of that, you know, after, right? And get feedback from them. And I feel like this is really what it's all about, right? Is that blossoming and that expansion. And then anchoring that in, right? So the anchoring part, I think, is so important, especially with our galactic information. And I know that you have done so many for yourself, for other people, like connecting in. What are some of your favorite galactic Akashic Records moments that you've had that you can share, of course, right?
Okay. Are we talking about like individually, like the people that I trained, or
Whatever.
Okay.
The sky's the limit.
I'll talk about my first encounter, and then we'll go into a few instances where I just, it lit up the whole entire session. So my first time, I was in the Akashic Records on the beach in Maui, and I was practicing, and this guy just swoops in, and I'm like, who are you? And he wouldn't give me his name. He was very expansive. I ended up naming him Whitebeard because he never gave me a name, because he wanted me to go past my human conceptualization that he was, you know, just in one space in the universe. He was multifaceted. And I asked him, I said, how many people do you work with? And he's like, millions. And come to find out, I've seen him in a lot of readings that I do for other people. And that particular guide is here for like big purpose, big mission, people who have very big galactic lines. And he's just nothing but a warm heart. If you're ever feeling even a little bit down, he's super easy to tune into, and he'll literally give you like 5 sentences that'll just set your day off in this like this juicy energy that you didn't have at that moment. So that's one of my biggest experiences, and he's always here, and I just love him to death. Let's see, one of my favorite sessions. Let's see. I have a few, but the one that really strikes me, there were 2 spirit guides. I'll just talk about the types of spirit guides that come in the sessions where I'm like, whoa, Andromedans just take over. Like when someone has an Andromedan background, it just blankets the whole Akashic energy with this love, and we can both feel it. It's not just me, the person that's getting the reading. It's just like, it just feels like there's so much support and guidance, and we're able to go in a much more expansive setting. If I'm training someone to read the Akashic Records and they have Andromedan, the sky is not the limit. There's just so
Yes.
much and so many places you can go. And I feel like the first time I experienced that through another person, because I experienced that with my own, but when I experienced it through someone else's channel, it was like, oh my gosh, I wish everyone knew that they have this, because once they know it, it's like, it changes your whole life. There's nothing, it's hard to even put in words, the feeling, because it's just so big and vast, but the sky is truly the limit. And I feel like some of the people who are famous that have that was Albert Einstein and Tesla. I think they definitely had Andromeda.
Oh, I love it.
Just like an example of like an Andromedan energy. And then there's this blue-white light being that comes through that feels like it has an Arcturian kind of energy to it. And the people who have had that, it's been just, they have this vibratory elegance to them. They can really shift the consciousness of an entire room. And they have this very magnificent way of being telepathic without really saying anything. You can really tell what they're feeling and saying and seeing. And when I first experienced that, I felt like the person and I that was getting the reading, I felt like we were just one person. So it's the galactic stuff. It just blows my mind. So yeah.
So I hold both of those frequencies, right? Like you know how I feel about all of this. Like I feel like we're all expressing, our souls are expressing so many different types of beings, and having so many different dimensional expressions simultaneously to this one. My Andromedan family, the consciousness is very vast. I connect more with the etheric Andromedans, more of their creator aspect, than I do those in physicality. And I would describe it as pure, really broad spectrum unconditional love, but also very smooth and vast harmony, right? So like when I harmonize spaces on Clubhouse, I tap into my Andromedan energies, of course Pleiadian too, but I really tap into my Andromedan energies because those frequencies, they permeate all, right? And they are, it always feels like you're getting a gift in the human experience when you have Andromedan energy come in with that harmonization and love. There's zero resistance to it because it is so connected to the oneness and the all, right? And so it's this thing where I've yet to have someone not receive it, right? They're just like, yes, I will take that, please, thank you. You know?
Yeah.
And oh man, they're amazing. I'm doing a project right now where I'm connecting in with my star family, and I'm working in an AI art generator, and I'm asking them to use the AI to generate art. And the Andromedan that they came up, I'm still working on it, but the Andromedan they came up with, I was like, really? That's not at all what I see you guys as. And she's beautiful. It was a female, but she's beautiful, but it was the physicality, right? And I was expecting the more etheric. In my mind, that's what you get when you expect things, right? But I was like thinking, oh, they're going to show their etheric side, like, and the way they show me the form within the light body is very much like some of the, not the original forms that we took when we were incarnating and staying etheric, but it's very similar to that humanoid form, but it's in, I mean, they look like they look like they have glass for skin as energy. It's like energy glass, and then all of the stars and everything that you can imagine in the universe is swirling inside of them, and then their eyes are just like a denser version of that, and they're all energy though, right? So they have that prismatic kind of thing going on inside as well. I mean, they're, I don't know, they're just amazing.
With that pink gas bubble that's right behind you is almost to a T what I see when I see an Andromedan with like eyes. So that's,
oh, I love that. I love that. That's amazing.
yeah.
I love how star beings will show, I mean, this is something that I don't think it gets spoken about enough, but they'll show each of us, like, we translate what they are in different ways, and they will show us a little bit of a different version of them because they're always in fluidity, right? Unless they're in like a dense you know, humanoid form, right? Meaning like fifth dimension or even some parts of sixth. If they're more like etheric, they can show us whatever is resonant with us, right? And it's very creative. And it's because they are all of those things, right? They're that and so much more. And for us to have something, I'm quite visual. And for me to have a visual of them is an easy way for me to just tap into the knowingness and the, you know, the heart connection and the soul connection, right? And so sometimes they'll be like, we don't need that. And I'm like, okay, well, just give me your frequency really strong, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I do want to bring this up because it's been something I've seen over and over and over again.
Yes.
Some people who end up getting an Akashic Records reading, you know, we have the high self, we have spirit guides. Some people have a version of them that is in a different dimension, in a different galaxy that's connected to them, that's serving their purpose there, here, and in other aspects, other dimensional spaces. Yeah.
That would be me.
And what's incredible about these people is that they know that. Like deep down inside, once you tell them, they're like, yeah. Yeah, and they're like, that makes so much sense. And I'm like, yeah, you might have a little hard time doing this down here because you think that there's a law that you can do down here that's not the same, and you're trying to figure it out. They're like, yeah. So it's and then there's all these things like, well, you also encompass that energy up there, so everything in this dimension magnetizes to you. And it's a pretty cool journey when you do a reading for someone that has that aspect of themselves, because you can ask their high self and you can ask their selves up there questions too about the questions in the Akashic Records. So it's really magnificent. You can take the Akashic Records is so expansive. It really just is up to your consciousness and where you're at. There's some people who believe that the Akashic Records is only for the human world, and that's just their consciousness. You know, that's as far as they go. Now, if you believe there's something more and you let go of conceptualizations, you can spend years finding new places and asking questions and depicting things. The more of a detective you are and the more you want to explore, the better. You're just going to get tons of answers and tons of expansion.
Oh, I love it. So I noticed recently on Instagram, you did a reel about the Akashic Records is in the library. Do you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I learned traditionally from, well, let me start over. When I first started opening the Akashic Records, I didn't see a library. And I had a really great teacher, and she explained to me that she goes through the library and that's how she does it, which there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens over time, if you create a conceptualization that works for you to get you into an Akashic field or an etheric field, that conceptualization is great to get there. Over time, you might notice like you start to outgrow it. Like the library, you might want the library to expand. So you're like, okay, maybe we should make a larger library. And then maybe you're like, okay, this library has a roof and I want to go higher. So you take the roof off, then you just notice that you're creating a different space. So whenever I'm teaching someone the Akashic Records, I actually don't push the library concept on them. I have them navigate it, and whatever shows up for them naturally. Like some people will see like a lake and the universe and the stars. Some people just see black, or they'll see a white light with information above their head. It's different for each person, just like how the Andromedans show up different for each person, because it's so expansive and so multidimensional that it's just important to come with an open mind, an open heart, and to be very creative. So to pigeonhole, like it's a library and these are the guides that are coming in all the time. It's like, open your mind, have a blast, explore. Like that's the biggest and most important thing. And I like to tell people that when they go in there, it's like being a kid again. We when you take a kid to a library, they say something like, but if you make it more enjoyable and creative and create it to the way that you want to design the Akashic Records, then that's the key. So that's just something I've noticed with teaching people.
So that's amazing. And after all of your journey with the Akashic Records, how do you perceive it? Like any different, I mean, I know it shifts and changes and evolves, but and whatever, I can sense that, right, as you talk about it. But how do you perceive it? Like, what does it feel like for you? That kind of a thing.
Actually, I'll say what it felt like the first time when I opened the Akashic Records. My first thought was, I feel like I just meditated for 3 hours and 10 minutes. That was my first feeling. And the first question I had, my answer sounded like it came from a Native American. But it was like a Native American that was translating things to me and helping me digest. What it felt like was the vibrations were so high that I needed something a little closer by, something that was like in a fourth dimensional space to give me the information. The
Awesome.
longer I got in it, the information became so vast that there were no words sometimes. And there was just these frequencies, and I was getting downloads, and I was like, I just felt like this person that I've never felt like before. And I had all this information, and what do I do with it? And the longer that I sat in it, I realized that I can navigate all these textures and dimensions. So now the Akashic Records to me is this expanded information center. It's just this vibratory information center. And depending on what type of message I want, I can go from a certain level down here, which I call like the human answer, like a human answer, to a little bit more of a higher self answer, to the greatest of all, like universal source wisdom answer, with my galactic friends giving me bits of information on the side. So I can pull from whatever I want to. And it's literally my inner guru. And so that's how I see the Akashic Records. It's my energetic frequency wisdom that I have within me, which is technically, sounds very Pleiadian, right?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Oh yes, I love it. When you're receiving information, I know this is a question that a lot of people will be curious about. As you're tapping in, are you translating frequency into English? Are you receiving symbols or words? Are you hearing them, feeling them, seeing them? Like what is it like for you?
So I learned this in doing Reiki and Akashic Records, that I've realized that if you have conviction and trust and faith and energy in the universe, you can ask it to do things for you. You can ask energy to move for you, to change for you. So what I do always changes. Right now I'm in a telepathic knowing, and I might switch next week, but I like to do telepathic knowing where I tap into an energy bubble. After I ask the question, I'll tap into the energy of the answer, and I'll just, without any messages, prior visualizations, I'll just speak. And that's, in a sense, a form of channeling. Sometimes I'll see images through vibration, and then I'll ask more questions in my head about the images that I get. And then I'll ask for assistance. So after I get the answer from the Akasha about the image, I'll then ask spirit guides, hey, any additional messages? Or I'll even ask high self, any additional messages? Another way that I channel in the Akashic Records is I will get a rush of feeling. And another way that I channel, and it just depends on the day, I'm like, you know what, I want to do it this day. I'll get a stream of words that like drop into the third eye, sometimes in the ear, and I will just regurgitate the words outwardly. So it changes, and I've asked for all of those intuitive abilities, and we have all of them, and it's really up to you and your feeling and what you want to do that day with your intuition and the records. It's just lots of practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So much commonality, actually, as I'm listening to you describe. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Ooh, that one's interesting. Yes, yes. You know, channeling, like, I think for people that haven't tapped into that aspect of themselves, it can feel very abstract, right? But once you do it, it becomes easier and easier and easier, like the more you practice it, right? And I always recommend for people, if you're wanting to channel, just tap in to your heart space, sit down with a pen and paper and ask your high self, what messages do you have for me today? And let them flow in. And it's a two-way street. You can say, hey, can we slow it down 5 words at a time? Don't read it until after and then read it. That's what I always tell everyone. Like, just tap into your heart and let it come in however it does. You know, there's so many different ways that people receive. Don't expect it to be one way or another. Allow it to shift and change as it's happening. The static aspects of the 3D experience, where it's like everything is set in stone and done particular ways, doesn't exist in the higher dimensionals, like in the higher dimensional aspects, right? So everything is fluid. So just go with it. Oh, April, this has been so amazing. I love listening to you talk about this. I can feel your passion. I'm sure all of you guys are feeling her passion too. And that's part of what makes it so exciting to be in your presence with all of this and outside of it, because we're always doing this, right? Like, I know you're the same way that I am. Like, I'm in constant communication all day long, you know, even when I'm having human moments, like I'm in what I do, you know, what I do in service and what I do in service in all the ways that I provide sessions, I do with myself all the time, right? Like, so it's like, you know, like just a continuation, and I can feel that about you too. And I feel this is magnetic, right? This aspect of you, plus a lot of others, are magnetic, and you guys connect with April Curry. I feel like there's so much expansion that can be had in sessions with her. So definitely connect in. And if you're interested in her, you know, there's going to be information on my website, in the description on YouTube, and in the podcast. If you're curious, go to BridgetReneeHolliday.com. And April, what's your website?
It's aprilcurry.com.
There you go. So there you have it. There's going to be all the places that you can find her. And Curry has 2 R's, you know. It's going to be amazing. Is there anything that you would like to share before we kind of wind this down? Is there any information for anyone that you want to share that you haven't already?
Yeah, I would say if you're new to the journey or you're getting back on the journey, if you took a pause, the best and most wonderful thing you could do for yourself is get Reiki sessions and meditate. Meditate, Reiki sessions, and ask questions that are open-ended after you've done those things with the words what, how, or why, just to get connected again. to really sit in your channel after you meditate and get Reiki and to ask questions. That's the way that I started, and it was very profound for me. And consistency doesn't have to be perfect. Just show up as much as you can, and anything is possible.
Oh, that's beautiful. Such good advice too. You guys. Well, okay, this has been amazing. April Curry, you guys, aprilcurry.com. Definitely look her up and connect. You are going to enjoy every single moment, and I'm sure you felt that today. And yeah, thank you so much, beautiful sister, and so much
Bridget.
love. I love you too. This has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see how we can co-create again in the future, because I'm enjoying every moment of this with you. And thank you to everyone who is watching, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, yeah. Bye.
Love you so much.